Good day, Internet people. If you've watched the last couple of episodes of Vanguard on the YouTube channel or on Crunchyroll, you'll have noticed that there's been a special kind of battle called the Relation Vanguard, or the Relay Fight. And I just thought I'd do a quick video just to show you the rules, because these have been uploaded to the official Cardfight Vanguard website, which is cf-vanguard.com/en. And on there you've got the full rules for playing your own relay fights. If you're not familiar with what a relay fight is, it's basically like one long match between two teams of 3 players, and each player on the team uses a different deck, but it all goes on as one long match rather than 3 separate matches or matches going on at the same time. So it's really interesting. I've not had a chance to play one myself, but I know people are quite keen to have a go at this. So I'm going to have a little look at the website with you here. I'm just going to kind of read over it, and then if you want to have a look in your own time, you can just visit the website as well. So it says, what is a relay fight? It's basically a 3-on-3 game format played in the relay style. You need to form teams of 3 fighters with your friends. You'll play against other 3-player teams. Each team member is assigned a position first, second and third, known as the Vanguard, centre field and captain respectively. Within a team, all members must use a different clan from the other members. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. They're kind of like standard requirements for a team, really, aren't they? So then, yeah, you go down to the actual start of the game, and you can see it ends when you get to 11 damage total. And basically, you switch players when you hit a certain number of damage. So when the first player hits 5 damage, then you tag out for the second player. And when the second player hits 3 damage of their own, you tag out for the third player. So a total game will end at 11 damage unless of other circumstances, which it'll cover later on down the website. So it's pretty cool. It means that the first player can take a couple of hits safely by having that requirement of 5 damage, because obviously when you're on grade 1 and 2, you're going to take a few hits to get your counterblast skills off. It's not really fair to give the first fighter only 3 damage to play with. This way you get your limit break skills off as well, which is pretty useful. So that's that. It says, what happens if I'm the first player at 4 damage and my opponent hits me with 2 crit? That's quite an interesting situation, because you take the 1 damage, it takes you to 5, but any further damage is basically just cancelled, because otherwise you're going to be tagging into the second fighter or the third fighter's damage, so you cancel out into that critical trigger. So it just does the damage up to the maximum for that level. So that's pretty interesting. Also, it says when a fighter loses, the attacking side's turn ends as well. So you don't get any more attacks. If you knock out your opponent, then it goes straight to the next player's turn, which is pretty useful as well, because it stops you kind of immediately laying the beat down on a player who hasn't got a chance to set up. So yeah, it gives you an example here as well. It says, when Divine Dragon Knight Mahmud hits the opponent's Vanguard, results in 5 damage for the opposing first fighter. The card's ability still resolves before the turn ends. I guess that's because that's not a damage-based thing. There you go. Yeah, it says, when an attacker hits at the beginning of the battle, at the end of the end phase, that turn will trigger resolve. So yeah, there's a bit of a timing thing to be aware of with these cards. If in doubt, it doesn't hurt to ask the question of a friend who's watching the game, or if you have a judge there. It's good to have someone who knows the rules. And then you've got the section here about transitioning to the next fighter. So it tells you which cards are retrieved by the owner, which cards remain on the field. So the owner takes away the remaining cards in their deck, they take away the face-down cards in the G-zone, and they take away the cards in their hand. I think that works slightly differently to how it worked on the actual anime, where they handed over the leftover hand. As you know, Ren inherited perfect guards from both Pale Moon and Spike Brothers in that episode. It doesn't look like that happens in a relay fight. It says the following cards remain on the field: face-up cards in the G-zone, face-up cards on the field, i.e. Vanguard and Rearguard circles, and cards in the damage zone, drop zone and bind zone. These cards remaining on the field are eligible for use in paying costs for effects. So if you come on as a second fighter, you might have up to 5 counterblasts to use before you've even really been playing. And it should be said that your first Vanguard is actually shuffled into your deck as well. I guess that'll be covered down there. But yeah, so there's a nice little diagram there just showing how it all works. Second player comes in, and you draw cards equal to the number of cards the previous fighter had in hand, plus 3, and start the fight. So, if your first player was an Oracle Think Tank player and had a massive hand, say 10 cards in hand, and you come on as a Spike Brothers player or something, and then you draw like 10 and another 3, that's pretty funny. I think you can come up with some really interesting combos between your decks based on the order in which you did things. I mean, you might choose to have like League Joker come on as well, see if you can Omega Lock some of the opponent's units. Presumably they would stay Omega Locked into the next round, so it'd be really interesting to see what kind of stuff you do. It says, what happens when I'm at 5 damage and I have to heal a damage down there? It says you will remain as the active fighter and you continue the relay fight as per normal. Previous fighter does not take over from you. So you can still heal, but you don't switch back to the previous fighter. Then you've got a few special rules. So yeah, your first Vanguard gets shuffled back into the deck if you're the second or third player. So make sure you don't use a different sleeve on your Vanguard if that's the case. Lord ability restrictions do not apply, but you still have to take note of cards that require specific clans. For example, I'll just say if it's a Forerunner, it'll still have to be a card of the same clan that would ride over it, but that obviously would be the case unless some weird scenario had happened. Cards belonging to the owner, you can read that in your own time. Okay, so yeah, there you go. It's pretty interesting because actually cards like Omega, Glendios, and Original Deleter Egorg, they still have their kind of end turn or end game effects. But if you've got another teammate to come on, then that teammate can basically still follow you, but you lose your part of the game, which is interesting. It says if you lose at 4 or less damage due to these effects, the second fighter and third fighter can still only take 3 damage each. So at that point, it's not a game to 11. If you're on 4, it essentially becomes like a game to 10 damage instead. So that's pretty interesting. And yeah, I suggest, if you're interested in playing the Relay Vanguard, get onto the official Vanguard website. I think this is both in English and Japanese. If you go onto the Japanese version of the site, you should find those rules there if you prefer it in Japanese. Okay, so yeah, let us know if you're planning on doing any relay fights, or if you've had a chance to have a go at one yet. We'd be really interested to know if anyone out there has actually had a little go yet at this. And would you like to see a relay fight on the channel? It would be a long video, obviously. But if you'd like to see something like that, let us know. Post down below with your thoughts. And yeah, we look forward to hearing your ideas and thoughts on Relay Vanguard. Thanks for watching. See you in another video. Bye, Internet people.